I will love the light, for it shows me the way. Yet I will endure the darkness, because it shows me the stars. Hi again, it's Gary. I thought it might be a good idea to give another video a go here. I've been seeing a lot of tweets from acquaintances of mine and some friends outside of social media have been voicing thoughts of depression, anxiety, and even some suicidal thoughts in there. And if you're not aware, September in Canada is Suicide Prevention Month. And this is something that I'm very aware of, an issue that I'm very aware of because of my field of work and my years in mental health. I've seen this stuff too much. It's hard when you find out that somebody you know or that somebody you've worked with has passed away because of suicide. It's one of the worst feelings that you can get. And so, taking a moment and sending out some good vibes out into the ether, and maybe giving you a bit of a helping hand. If you're feeling depressed, you're probably feeling quite alone. You probably hear people saying, "I'm here for you. I want to be there for you. I'm right here." And no matter how many people you're surrounded with, you can still feel alone. Depression is like a big, dark, deep pit. And you're lying at the bottom of it. And you're looking up. And there's no light. No matter what's tossed to you, it's really hard to grab onto anything. Because when you are in that pit, you just feel like there's nothing there for you and that you're never going to climb out of it. And it totally goes against all logic. And even though you know that in your head, you know that there are people there for you, that there are resources. They can be just so hard to reach out to. And that's why it's so important to get rid of all of the stigmas behind mental illness. A lot of people are afraid to reach out because they're afraid of what people will think. One thing to remember, though, if you're afraid to reach out, those people are in your life not because they have to be, but because they want to be. And if you're giving support to somebody with depression, you don't have to fix anything. The important thing is be there. If you're suffering from depression, I'd like to be there. I'd like to be there, just sitting beside you, just listening if you want to talk, or just sitting quietly and not talking at all, but just being there. We've lost too many people to mental illness. And if there was anything that I could do to take that away, or to make it right, or to fix you, I'd be in there like a dirty shirt. But it's not something that's so simple, and we all know that. Depression is physical. I know we call it a mental illness, right? I don't even like the term mental illness. Why can't we just say it's an illness? The more we look at mental illness, the more we see it's physiological in nature. It's something that doesn't make a lot of sense to people who don't understand psychiatric conditions. But depression is like diabetes or high blood pressure, in my books. I'm not going to tell somebody with high blood pressure, oh, stop taking your pills. Just get over it. Pull yourself up by the bootstraps. All of those wrong things that we say to people with depression. And people with a mental illness will often be quiet about it. It's not just stigma. There's probably been a time in their life where they have reached out, and people have walked away from them. The worst thing you could do for somebody who needs help, a friend who needs help, is just to walk away from them. But people don't understand depression or bipolar disorder or PTSD, general anxiety disorder, schizophrenia. Just too many people out there just don't get it. I guess I can equate this to how I would spend time with my son. My son has Asperger's, and I think the best thing I can do for him is just to be there when he needs me. He comes over when he wants, and we can sit and talk for hours, or we can just sit and do absolutely nothing. But just providing a really low-key, low-stress environment where he can verbalize when he wants to. And just basically being for him, being there for him, it makes all the difference in the world. And I find that's something that's similar with people who have anxiety or depression or other disorders. It makes so much of a difference just being there for them. And also understanding there's a good chance they're in that pit and they can't see the light. And the thing to remember if you're providing support is that you're just being there makes a difference. And you might not see it. It's invisible. But it's like a little crack of light. And it opens things up and things get brighter, even if it's just a little bit in the moment. If you do have depression, I'm going to tell you something you already know. It's a cycle. Remember I just said that when you're in that deep dark pit, you can't see the light. But in your head, you know it's a cycle. And I want to remind you of that. Because the cycle is going to end. The light is going to come back. And I want you to fight this. I want you to be a warrior with me on this. We can fight this together. And I met a lot of people who are fighting in whatever way they can. Breaking the stigma, the stereotype, going on social media, speaking out. This is something we can do when we're well. We gotta make the world understand. And a lot of the world isn't going to understand. And that's okay. Because we can be there for each other. And you can surround yourself with a support system that gets it. That are going to be there for you. That are going to sit with you. Or stand with you. They're not going to carry you. Nobody's going to do that. But they're going to walk with you. And so if you know somebody right now, and they're in the pit, I really hope you're going to go to them and give them a hand. If you're in the pit, it's going to get better. I have been fighting depression for decades. And it has been one heck of a battle. And after a few decades, I think I'm finally getting it. I've surrounded myself with what I need. I have one of those seasonal affective disorder lamps. Some people call them sad lamps. That works for me. I have meditation. I have mindfulness. ASMR has been a godsend for me. I make a lot of me time. My time out in the real world is spent with purpose. And I do the things that I have to do that make me feel good inside. Being a nurse helps. I work with the most incredible people that I've ever met. And together we work to make the world right. We have a crisis line in the place that I work. And that's not my department, but when I'm working night shifts, I'll be sitting at my desk and a call will come in and I listen to them talking. I can't tell you how many times they've managed to reach out to somebody over a telephone line and the call has gone from, I'm going to have to go to the hospital, to, no, I'm okay now. There are million supports out there, millions of people that are like us, who are warriors, that are reaching out to different people one way or another. If you're in the pit, call one of those crisis lines. You can look it up online for your community. There are all sorts of free supports that are usually available. And I think, most importantly, don't do what I tell you to do. Do what works for you. And don't be afraid to talk about it. And if you're in a good space, and you have a friend, and you're wondering, ask. It's one of the biggest problems that we have today. People don't talk about mental illness. Ask. Ask somebody right out, are you suicidal? Are you planning on hurting yourself? A lot of people are afraid to ask that question. They're afraid that it might make it worse. No. It's the exact opposite. I find that people who are suicidal will usually tell you the truth. But people don't want suicide. Nobody wants suicide. People want a reason to live. And they're going to reach out if you just make that first move. That in itself can change the tide so much. There's always hope for the future. So a reminder, and I think everybody needs to hear this, for you. You're a beautiful person. You can fight this. You can beat this. You're worth it. You're worth it.